Lot 47. Virex 9 did not appear on most navigation charts. It drifted in the dark between sanctioned trade routes. A skeletal station wrapped in salvage plating and docking spines, orbiting nothing but vacuum and greed. From a distance, it looked abandoned. Up close, it pulsed with traffic. Cargo, weapons, bodies. The lower ring housed the markets. The air there was thick and metallic, recycled too many times. Light panels flickered overhead, staining everything in pale industrial white. The floor of the auction pit was black alloy, grooved for drainage. The grooves were never dry. Tonight, the pit was full. Creatures from 6 systems lined the upper tiers. Armored syndicate buyers, minor warlords, collectors, traffickers. The wealthy sat in sealed glass balconies above them, faces obscured behind polarized shields. Below, inventory waited. Some wept. Some shouted. Some strained uselessly against restraint fields. At the center of the pit, beneath a rotating holoprojection, knelt Lot 47. No name, no origin, just a designation stamped into a digital placard. Lot 47. Humanoid, female. Visual defect, irreversible. Condition, stable. Disposition, non-aggressive. Non-aggressive. The label would have been almost amusing once. She knelt with her hands resting against the cold metal floor. Chains linked her wrists loosely, not tight enough to bruise further, not loose enough to forget. Her spine was straight, not in defiance, in memory. 14 years had passed since she had seen light. She did not measure time by calendars anymore. She measured it by transfers, owners, labor cycles. Starport air changes. She had learned the sounds of the galaxy without sight. The subtle hum of plasma, conduits behind walls, the weight difference between military boots and civilian footwear, the breath patterns of men who intended harm. She heard everything. Right now, she heard boredom. No one in the crowd leaned forward. No one whispered about her. Her value had already been decided before she entered the pit. Her body bore the cost of years. She was tall, even kneeling, her shoulders broad and structured beneath worn fabric. Muscle remained along her arms and abdomen, not cultivated for display, but preserved by necessity. Hard labor had carved her into something lean and resilient. Faint scars crossed her skin, restraint burns at the wrists, a thin line along her collarbone, older marks that spoke of discipline rather than chaos. Her hair fell in heavy golden braids down her back, unevenly cut at some point, long ago. Strands escaped around her face, catching in the stale airflow. Her face itself was striking in structure. High cheekbones, clean jawline, lips shaped in natural firmness rather than softness. Dirt dulled the glow of her skin, but could not erase its underlying warmth. And then there were her eyes, clouded, pale, unfocused. They reflected the overhead lights like frosted glass. They did not move when the crowd shifted. They did not react to gestures. They were empty of sight, but not of awareness. She tilted her head slightly as the auctioneer stepped forward, not toward his words, toward the rhythm of his breathing. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, voice amplified through crackling speakers. Humanoid female. Durable physiology. Labor compliant. Visual impairment permanent. 14 years under controlled captivity. A pause. Starting bid. 100 credits. A murmur rolled through the pit. 100. That was the price of scrap components. She did not move. The auctioneer cleared his throat. 100 credits. Silence. Above, someone laughed. Blind, a voice called. What's she good for? Manual labor. Another replied dismissively. Until she walks into a wall. Laughter. The handler behind her nudged her shoulder with a shock baton, not activating it, just reminding her of its presence. She swayed slightly from the contact, then steadied. She had learned not to tense. Tension invited escalation. 100 credits, the auctioneer repeated, irritation creeping into his tone. Still, nothing. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Her breathing remained steady. Inhale, exhale. She felt the subtle vibration of boots shifting above. Heard the faint mechanical whir of someone adjusting armor plating. No one wanted her. 14 years ago, that realization would have destroyed her. Tonight, it simply confirmed what she already knew. Final call, the auctioneer said flatly. No one answered. The handler behind her sighed. Disposal? He asked. The auctioneer nodded once. Disposal. Authorized. The word fell through the pit without ceremony. No drama. No spectacle. Just process. The crowd's attention shifted immediately to side conversations. A few spectators turned away entirely. Inventory that did not sell was processed for parts or protein reclamation. Nothing wasted. A guard stepped forward. His sidearm disengaged from magnetic lock with a soft click. She heard it. The faint shift of weight as he adjusted his stance. The subtle intake of breath before a trigger pull. Her hands tightened against the metal floor. Just slightly. Not in fear. In memory. There had been a time when she would have fought. There had been a time when she would have screamed until her throat bled. There had been a time when she believed survival meant something. 14 years of captivity had ground those edges smooth. Now she simply lifted her face toward the sound, not searching, accepting. Travis Kelsey had docked on Virex 9 for 36 minutes. That had been the plan. Refuel. Replace a cracked coolant seal. Leave. He despised slave markets. He had seen enough war to know what happened to people when they were reduced to commodities. He did not linger near places like this, but amplified voices carried strangely through station corridors. He had followed them without meaning to. Now, he stood at the upper tier, arms crossed, jaw tight. He told himself he would leave. Then he saw her. At first, he noticed how still she was. Not trembling like the others. Not shouting. Not bargaining. Just still. The overhead light caught her hair. Even dulled by grime, it held a muted gold beneath the filth. Her posture was straight, despite exhaustion. Her body, lean, strong, marked by years, did not look fragile. It looked worn down to something essential. "Disposal authorized," the auctioneer declared. The guard raised his weapon. She did not beg. She turned her face slightly toward the sound of the weapon, and that was what struck him. There was no panic in her expression, no rage, just quiet readiness, like someone stepping into cold water they already knew would drown them. His heart thudded hard against his ribs. He didn't know why. He didn't know her. She was just another victim, in a system he hated but rarely interfered with. But something about her, the absence of desperation, hit him harder than any scream could have. Wait. He didn't realize he had spoken until the chamber quieted. The auctioneer blinked upward. Bid. Travis stepped closer to the railing. 150. The number was almost an afterthought. A murmur rippled through the tier. The auctioneer seized the opportunity. 150 received. Any counter? None came. No one wanted damaged goods. Sold. The gavel struck. The guard lowered his weapon. Below. She did not react. Not when the chains were disengaged from the floor. Not when the handler gripped her arm. Not when the word sold echoed in the chamber. Her breathing remained steady. Travis felt something twist in his chest. He hadn't planned this. He had only meant to stop an execution. He didn't yet understand that he had just altered the trajectory of both their lives. They brought her forward into the lower corridor, up close. She was even more arresting. Years of captivity had not erased her structure. Her shoulders remained defined, her abdomen tight, with disciplined strength. Scars traced faint patterns across her skin, but none of them diminished her presence. Her clouded eyes shifted toward the sound of his boots. She could not see him, but she knew precisely where he stood. "Transfer complete," the handler muttered, shoving her lightly toward him. "She's yours." She corrected her balance instantly, her head tilted toward Travis. Her voice, when she spoke, was low, roughened by disuse, but steady. "Am I purchased for labor?" she asked quietly. "Or termination elsewhere?" No fear, just clarification. Travis swallowed. "Neither," he said. He didn't know yet what he intended, only that walking away had not been an option. Behind them, another lot was dragged into the pit. The crowd roared again. Virex 9 continued breathing profit into the dark, and somewhere far beyond the station's rusted hull, forces that believed certain bloodlines long erased remained unaware that one of them had just survived again. Chapter 2. The distance between breaths. The ship was smaller than she expected. She could tell by the way sound behaved. In large vessels, noise traveled in layers, echo stacking upon echo, machinery humming in distant chambers. This ship was compact. The engine vibration was close, steady, low frequency. The air recyclers cycled every 12 seconds. Military design. Efficient. No wasted space. She memorized the layout in silence as they walked. 14 steps from docking ramp to interior corridor. 3 paces to the right. Bulkhead. A slight incline. Central spine toward cockpit. He did not drag her. He did not speak unnecessarily. That unsettled her more than cruelty would have. Most buyers spoke quickly, eagerly. They justified their purchases aloud, as if convincing themselves of ownership. This one was quiet. The docking ramp sealed behind them with a hydraulic hiss. Isolation. The sound was unmistakable. Her shoulders tightened. Almost imperceptibly, he noticed. Travis Kelsey had transported refugees before. War survivors. He knew the way their breathing changed when doors sealed. Hers didn't change. That was worse. She stood in the center of the cargo hold, wrists still loosely chained, posture straight. The overhead lights here were softer than the auction pit. Warmer, more diffused. In that light, the marks on her skin were clearer. Faint silver, scars along her forearms, old, restraint, burns. A thin, nearly invisible line tracing just beneath her collarbone. Surgical, precise. Not random abuse. Controlled damage. His jaw tightened. He hadn't asked about her history. The placard had said 14 years captivity. 14 years was enough to erase a person. Sit, he said finally, gesturing toward a bench bolted to the wall. She did not move immediately. She turned her head slightly toward his voice. Measuring distance. Measuring tone. She lowered herself slowly, controlled, careful not to show hesitation. He noticed that, too. Her movements were economical, balanced. Not the stagger of someone blind since birth. The precision of someone who had once seen everything. Travis keyed a command into his wrist console. The remaining restraints unlocked with a soft metallic click. The chain fell away from her wrists. She did not rub them, did not flex her fingers. She simply let her hands rest against her thighs. Free, but not trusting. He stepped back, deliberately creating space. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. The words felt insufficient, even as he spoke them. She tilted her head slightly. "I have heard that before." Her voice was quiet, even, not accusatory, just factual. He exhaled slowly. Fair. Silence stretched between them. The ship's engines hummed beneath their feet. She listened to him breathe. He realized that, suddenly. She was counting it. He shifted his weight. Her head turned immediately toward the movement. Precise. He felt a chill. "You're not what they labeled you as?" he said carefully. Another silence. "What did they label me as?" she asked. Non-aggressive. For the first time, the faintest change touched her expression. Not a smile. Something sharper. "They prefer that description," she said. "It reassures buyers." Travis folded his arms. "Why didn't you fight?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. Her jaw tightened. 14 years, she said quietly, is a long time to fight alone. There was no self-pity in it, just exhaustion. But beneath the exhaustion, steel. He saw it in the way her shoulders held tension. in the way her breathing never lost rhythm. She wasn't broken. She was contained. He moved toward a storage compartment and retrieved a sealed water container. When he stepped closer, she flinched. Small, instant, but there. He stopped. Immediately. "I'm setting this on the floor," he said calmly. "2 steps in front of you." He placed it down gently and stepped back again. She waited 3 seconds before moving. Her hand reached forward, not blindly, direct to it. No fumbling, no searching. Her fingers closed around the container with unerring accuracy. Travis felt it again, that tightening in his chest. She drank, slowly, measured, not desperate. When she finished, she set the container back down, exactly where it had been. "You didn't ask my name," she said. He hesitated, didn't know if you'd want to give it. Another pause. "That is wise," she replied. He studied her in silence. There was something about the way she held herself, even seated on a cargo bench, even thin from rationing, even scarred. She occupied space like someone accustomed to command. Not loudly, but absolutely. "You think I bought you for something worse," he said. She did not deny it. "That is statistically probable." The bluntness startled him. "Statistically," he repeated. "Yes, not uneducated, not simple, not diminished." "Why did you bid?" she asked. The question was direct. He considered lying. Instead, they were going to execute you, and that troubled you. Yes. Another long silence. "Why?" He searched for an answer that wasn't sentimental. "Because I've seen enough death," he said finally. Didn't feel like watching another one. For sport, she absorbed that. Her head tilted slightly, listening to the cadence of truth in his voice. "You are not a slaver," she said. "No, not a collector? No, not wealthy." He almost laughed at that. "Definitely not." She turned her face slightly toward him. "You move like military." His breath stalled. "Used to." There it was. Again, that subtle shift in her expression. She understood soldiers too well. "You were not born blind," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Her fingers tightened slightly against her thigh. "No." He waited. She did not elaborate. The ship fell into a heavy stillness. Outside the hull, Virex 9 traffic drifted past in distant mechanical groans. Inside, 2 survivors sat across from each other, neither trusting, neither explaining. Finally, she spoke again. "You did not purchase me out of mercy." It wasn't an accusation. It was analysis. "Maybe not entirely," he admitted. "Then why?" He held her gaze, even if she couldn't see it. "Because when they pointed that weapon at you, you didn't beg." A faint, almost imperceptible inhale. "Begging has never altered outcomes," she said. "No," he agreed, "but most people try anyway." Silence. Then, "If you intend to resell me, she said calmly. Do so quickly. Delayed transactions reduce value. Something in him recoiled at the detachment in her voice. I'm not reselling you. She did not respond. Trust was not built on declarations. He stepped toward the cockpit. We're leaving orbit, he said. You can stay there. No restraints. The engines shifted tone as he powered up thrusters. She felt the change immediately, compensated for the slight tilt before inertial dampeners fully engaged. Travis noticed, blind. 14 years, captive, and still adjusting to engine. Drift before stabilization. He frowned. Who are you? He didn't ask. Not yet. As the ship detached from Virex 9 and drifted into the cold dark between stars, Meredith sat perfectly still, listening to the engine rhythm, mapping the vessel in her mind, memorizing the sound of the man who had interrupted her execution. She did not trust him. She did not believe in rescue. But for the first time in 14 years, she was no longer waiting to die. And somewhere beneath exhaustion and restraint, something small and dangerous shifted awake. Chapter 3. Velocity. The ship did not jump immediately. Travis kept it drifting beyond Virex 9's outer debris ring, engines running low to avoid drawing attention. The station shrank behind them, a fractured silhouette against starless dark. Inside the cockpit, soft amber lights glowed across control panels. Outside, the void stretched endless and indifferent. He should have set coordinates and left without hesitation. Instead, he found himself delaying, running diagnostics that didn't need running, rechecking navigation vectors he had already verified, because she was behind him, not speaking, not moving, listening. He could feel her presence, like gravity. In the cargo hold, Meredith sat exactly where he had left her. She had counted his footsteps when he walked away, mapped the direction of his movement, memorized the subtle shift in sound when he entered the cockpit. She knew the ship now, 16 meters long, 2 compartments, engine core slightly offset, older model, tuned carefully. He took care of it. That told her something. Men who cared for machines often treated living things with similar precision. Not always, but often. She rose slowly. No restraints stopped her now. Her balance was immediate, fluid. She extended one hand lightly until her fingers brushed the wall, not searching, orienting. Her steps were silent, measured. If he intended harm, she would not be unprepared again. 14 years had stripped her of illusions, not skill. In the cockpit, Travis sensed movement behind him before he heard it. He turned halfway in his seat. She stood in the doorway. The soft lighting outlined her silhouette. Tall, lean, scarred, but undeniably striking. Even in worn fabric, even thin from rationing, she held herself with an instinctive dignity that refused erasure. Her clouded eyes faced toward him. "You're light on your feet," he said quietly. "So are you," she replied. There was no challenge in her tone, just acknowledgement. He gestured toward the empty co-pilot seat. "You can sit." A pause. Then she crossed the distance, without assistance. She did not bump the doorway. did not hesitate at the threshold. Her hand brushed the back of the co-pilot chair, and she lowered herself into it with controlled ease. Travis tried not to stare. He failed. He had known from the first moment in the pit that she was extraordinary. But up here, in the quiet, the truth of it settled heavier. Her face, even shadowed, was arresting. High cheekbones, strong jaw, lips set in composed restraint. The scars did not diminish her beauty. They sharpened it. Her blindness did not make her fragile. It made her unreadable. "You're not taking me to another market," she said. "No, then where?" He hesitated. "Somewhere quieter." She considered that. "You don't know me. No, you don't know what I've done." "No." Another silence stretched. "You should be cautious," she said. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. "I usually am." "You weren't in the pit." His gaze softened. "I didn't like the ending they had planned for you." Her head tilted slightly. "Why?" He could have said compassion. He could have said morality. Instead, the truth slipped out before he filtered it. "Because you looked like you were already gone." The words hung in the cockpit. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Pain, not visible, felt. Then it vanished. "Perhaps I was," she said quietly. The ship's proximity alarm chimed. Sharp, insistent. Travis's posture changed instantly. Professional. Focused. He turned back to the console. 3 fast movers. Closing from portside, he muttered. Meredith's head turned toward the sound of the alarm. Her breathing shifted. Not faster, but deeper. "Listening. Pirates?" she asked. "Likely." A transmission crackled across the comm. "Unregistered vessel. Power down, and prepare for boarding." Travis exhaled slowly. Of course. He toggled systems rapidly, fingers moving with practiced fluency. Meredith listened to the tempo of his movements. Precise, confident, not panicked. The pirates' engines roared closer. She could hear the pitch difference as they accelerated. 3 ships. Light fighters. Hungry. "You can't outrun 3, she said quietly. A faint grin crossed his face. "Watch me." He killed forward drift and rolled the ship hard starboard. Artificial gravity lagged half a second before compensating. Meredith's hand shot out instinctively, bracing against the console without fumbling. The pirate fighters overshot slightly, forced to correct trajectory. Travis dropped power to one engine, feigning instability. "They think you're damaged," she said. "I am," he replied. "Just not the way they think." A missile lock warning shrieked. He cut engines entirely. Silence. For a heartbeat, they drifted dead in space. Then he fired lateral thrusters and rotated the ship 90 degrees, using the pirates' own forward momentum against them. One missile streaked past, harmlessly. The cockpit lights flickered as he redirected power from life support to engines. Meredith did not flinch at the sudden pressure shift. She leaned slightly forward. "You're angling toward debris," she observed. He blinked. "Yeah." She nodded, faintly. "Their larger frames won't clear the field cleanly." He glanced at her. "You can't see it. I can hear the gravitational distortion. He didn't question it. He trusted his instincts and something about her. He plunged the ship into the drifting wreckage field. Metal husks of old freighters spun slowly in the dark. He threaded between them with surgical precision. Engines roaring, then cutting, then roaring again. One pirate clipped debris, sparks flaring. Another veered too wide. The third stayed on them, persistent. Travis muttered. Meredith's fingers tightened against the edge of the seat. Left in 3 seconds, she said suddenly. He didn't hesitate. He rolled left. A chunk of twisted hull metal spun past where they would have been. His eyes flicked toward her. How did you... Sound carries differently. When objects rotate, another missile lock warning. He exhaled once, slow, then pushed the ship beyond recommended tolerance. Engines screamed. The stars elongated. He skimmed the outer edge of the debris field and burst into open space, slingshotting off the gravity pocket created by a derelict freighter. The pirate fighters tried to follow. 2 failed to match the vector. The third peeled away. The alarm fell silent. Only the steady hum of the engine remained. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then, that was reckless, she said softly. A breath of laughter escaped him. Yeah, you enjoyed it. He leaned back in his seat. Maybe silence again, but different now, charged. He turned toward her slowly. You helped. I did not intend to be boarded, she replied. That's not what I meant. Another quiet beat. She turned her face toward him. You trusted me. He considered that. I did. Why? Because I've been falling in love with you since the moment I saw you kneeling in chains. He did not say that. Instead, because you were right. She studied the cadence of his breathing. There was no deception in it. Something shifted between them. Not trust, not yet, but awareness. Her fingers relaxed slightly against the console. You are skilled, she said. So, are you? A faint, almost imperceptible curve touched her lips, the first hint of something not carved from exhaustion. It hit him harder than the missile alarm. His chest tightened again. That same inexplicable pull he had felt in the pit, only stronger now. She turned her face toward the forward viewport. Though she could not see the stars stretching endlessly ahead, she could feel the openness of space, the absence of walls. You should be cautious with attachments, she said quietly. His throat tightened. Why? Because I do not intend to remain dependent. It wasn't rejection. It was warning. He nodded, slowly. Good. A long silence followed. The ship stabilized on a new vector, engines settling into steady rhythm. Outside, the void stretched infinite and cold. Inside, something fragile had begun to warm. Neither of them named it, but it was there, and neither of them understood yet how violently the galaxy would test it. Chapter 4. The Graveyard Between Stars. They did not immediately jump to hyperspace after the pirates peeled away. Travis didn't like jumping, while adrenaline still distorted judgment. Instead, he angled the ship toward a region marked on outdated charts as a debris cluster. Unclaimed, unregulated, ignored. "Where are we going?" she asked, quietly, from the co-pilot seat. "Somewhere quiet," he said. "After a chase like that, best not to leave a clean trail." She nodded faintly. She understood evasion. He adjusted long-range sensors. "That field ahead?" He continued. "Old crash zone. Probably nothing but scrap." "Probably?" she repeated. He shrugged. "Sector wasn't fully charted until about 80 years ago. Some wrecks drift through from older conflicts." She tilted her head slightly. "Older than recorded history?" He smirked. Faintly. "Not that old." He wrong. The debris field. The field appeared slowly on visual. Fragments first, like scattered bones against the void. Then larger shapes emerged. Fractured hull plates, twisted engine rings, broken cargo modules drifting in slow orbit around something darker at the center. Travis narrowed his eyes. "That's not normal." The central mass wasn't shattered the way battle wreckage usually was. It was intact, half buried in drifting debris. A ship. Or what had once been one. But its architecture didn't match anything in his database. No known faction insignia. No standard alloy signature. No recognizable thruster configuration. It curved in unfamiliar geometry, elegant and deliberate, even in ruin. Meredith's breathing changed slightly. "You feel that?" she asked. "Feel what?" "The vibration?" He frowned. "I'm not close enough yet. For hull resonance, it isn't coming from our hull." That unsettled him. He slowed their approach. The ship drifted closer. The wreck was enormous. Larger than a frigate. Smaller than a cruiser. Its hull was dark, almost obsidian, etched with faint geometric patterns that repeated in perfect symmetry along its surface. Not decorative. Structured. Intentional. "This wasn't military," he murmured. "How can you tell?" she asked. "Military ships prioritize armor, plating over aesthetics. This one does not. No. This one was built to last." He ran a spectral scan. The results made him sit up straighter. "That's impossible." "What?" "Material degradation suggests it's been here at least 3 centuries." She went very still. This sector was not charted 3 centuries ago. Exactly. A long silence followed. The wreck drifted in quiet defiance of recorded history. "Boarding." He suited up. "You're staying here," he said. "I can assist." "In vacuum?" She almost smiled. "Not physically." He hesitated, then left the cockpit comm channel open. Inside the wreck, gravity was gone. His boots magnetized to the floor plating as he entered through a fracture in the hull. The interior was preserved, not scorched, not blasted apart. Abandoned? Panels lined the walls, dark but intact. Corridors, curved, with unfamiliar angles. The geometric etchings from the exterior continued inside, faintly glowing when his suit light passed over them. "Any sign of battle damage?" she asked. over calm. None. Then why was it abandoned? That's what I'm trying to figure out. He moved. Deeper. Dust particles floated frozen in vacuum, undisturbed for centuries. He entered what appeared to be a central chamber. And there, embedded into the floor at its center, was the device. It wasn't mounted like equipment. It was integrated. Part of the structure. Dark metal, threaded with silver filaments, cylindrical but asymmetrical, etched with the same geometric arrays as the hull, cracked along one side. Faint light pulsed from within. His heart skipped. "That's not scrap," he whispered. "Describe it," she said. He did. Silence. "Then, do not activate it," she said quietly. "I wasn't planning to." He crouched. His scanner failed to interpret it. No readable energy classification. No familiar radiation signature. He reached out. When his glove touched it, the device pulsed. Softly, not violently, like a heartbeat. Back on the ship, Meredith inhaled sharply. "I felt that." He froze. Felt what? A shift. He stared at the device. What kind of shift? The kind that does not belong to engines. A cold prickle ran down his spine. He carefully disengaged the device from its housing. It detached cleanly, as if designed to be removed. When he lifted it, the surrounding wall patterns flickered faintly in response. The ship wasn't dead. It was dormant, and they had just disturbed it. The return. He didn't linger. He returned to his ship with the device secured. Once inside, he sealed the airlock and removed his helmet. Meredith was standing in the corridor, waiting. "You brought it," she said. "Yes, you should not have." He held it up between them. "It's technology, not a curse. You do not know that." He hesitated. She stepped closer. Though blind, her face angled precisely toward it. The device pulsed again. Soft, reactive. Her expression changed. Not fear, recognition. He noticed. "You felt something like this before." A pause. "Yes." "When?" She didn't answer. Instead, "Be careful with it," she said. That was not a warning of superstition. It was a warning of experience, the beginning of secrecy. He stored it beneath the engine deck, locked, isolated, and said nothing more about it. But that night, long after she retreated to the bunk, he opened it again, ran deeper scans, mapped internal structures. The geometry inside was not random. It folded in on itself, spatially impossible in conventional design. It wasn't storing energy. It was redirecting it. He stared at the simulations, at the equations that shouldn't balance, but did. His pulse began to race. "No," he muttered. It couldn't be, but the math kept resolving to the same conclusion. Localized, temporal displacement. Forward, vector only. He leaned back, slowly. If he was right. He thought of her immediately, of the way her fingers had tightened when he asked about sight, of the quiet strength she carried without complaint. He closed the panel, locked the compartment again, and kept the truth to himself. For now, Chapter 5. What the future might hold. Time passed differently in deep space. Without planetary cycles, days became defined by engine hum, by meal intervals, by the quiet dimming of lights during ship night. The wreck faded behind them. The debris field became a distant coordinate, but the device did not fade. It pulsed beneath the engine deck, soft, patient, waiting. Week 1. They established rhythm without discussing it. Morning cycles began with silence and hot synth coffee. She would sit at the galley counter, hands wrapped around the metal cup, listening to the faint vibration of the ship. He would watch her, without meaning to. It was in small things he noticed her changing. She no longer mapped every step. She no longer slept with her back against a wall. She moved through the ship as though it were becoming familiar territory rather than temporary refuge. "You walk lighter," he said one morning. "I am less prepared to flee," she replied. "That's progress." For now, he didn't ask. What would change that? The device. He worked on it when she slept. He learned the internal structure slowly. It was not powered by conventional fuel. It responded to biological proximity. More specifically, to him. That unsettled him. Every time he activated a minor test pulse, micro displacements of inert objects, he felt a faint distortion in the air. Not visible, but perceptible. Localized time dilation. Seconds. Stretched. Collapsed. Reformed. He began running projections. Forward displacement only. Range uncertain. Destination unpredictable, but mathematically trending toward future timelines. He stopped sleeping easily after that. Week 2. She began asking him about Earth. "What does rain sound like?" she asked one night from the cockpit. He blinked. "Different. Depending on where you are. Describe it." He leaned back in his chair. "On a metal roof, it's sharp, rhythmic. On soil, it's softer. Like static and thunder, like space, tearing open." She smiled faintly at that. "And sunlight?" He hesitated. "Warm, direct. Makes you squint." She tilted her head slightly. "I remember squinting." The words carried no bitterness, just memory. He felt something shift inside him. He wanted to give that back to her, not as charity, as restoration. Week 3. He almost told her twice. Both times he stopped, because hope is dangerous. Because if the device failed, he would have given her something worse than blindness. Expectation. But the projections stabilized. The math held. He tested displacement on a handheld tool. It vanished. Reappeared 8 minutes later, unharmed. His pulse pounded. He locked the engine room door after that. Not because he feared her, because he feared himself. The question. It happened during a quiet drift cycle. Stars scattered outside like spilled diamonds. She was seated beside him, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her arm through his sleeve. "You are thinking loudly, she said. He huffed a soft breath. That's not how that works. It is for you. He turned toward her. If your sight could be restored, he said carefully, would you want it? She did not answer immediately. Her hands folded in her lap. I have rebuilt myself around its absence. I know. I survive because I do not long for what is gone. He swallowed. But if it wasn't gone? Her breathing shifted slightly. That is not possible. What if it was? Silence. Longer. This time. Finally. Yes. Barely above a whisper. Yes, she repeated. Steadier now. Even if it required risk. His heart began to race. What if it required more than risk? He pressed softly. What if it required stepping into something unknown? Her head turned toward him fully. How unknown? Future unknown. She went very still. That is not a metaphor. No, another pause. You are speaking carefully, she said. I am. Why? He stood slowly. Because I need to show you something. The reveal. The engine deck lights were dim. He unlocked the compartment, activated the device. Silver lines illuminated along its surface. The air seemed to thicken. Her breath caught that pulse. She whispered, It's not a power source, he said. It's a temporal displacement device. Silence. Then, you are mistaken? I thought so too. It is impossible. I tested it. She stepped closer. How? Micro displacements. Forward. Only. Her composure faltered. You are saying this machine moves matter into the future. Yes. For how long? I don't know yet. She laughed once, disbelieving, overwhelmed. That is madness. Probably. Why are you telling me this? He stepped closer. Because I want to take you there. Silence swallowed the room. To the future? She asked. Yes. For medicine. Not yet discovered. Yes. Her breathing became uneven. Not panicked, but destabilized. You would risk annihilation, she said slowly. For the possibility of my sight. Yes. No hesitation. No heroics. Just truth. Her fingers rose slowly, finding his chest. His heart hammered beneath her palm. You are serious. Yes. You would step into centuries. You cannot predict. Yes. Her other hand found his wrist, feeling his pulse. Rapid. Unsteady. You are either the bravest man I have ever known, she whispered, or dangerously attached. Maybe both. Silence stretched between them. The device pulsed softly behind his shoulder. You cannot fix what was done to me, she said quietly. I can try. Her fingers tightened against him. That is what terrifies me. He lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to stop him. She didn't. His palm found her cheek. Warm, scarred, real. If this fails, she whispered, you could lose everything. I don't have everything. he said softly. Not yet. A breath, a tremor in it. And if you succeed? She asked. He leaned closer. Then, you see me? The words settled heavy between them. For the first time since the auction pit, her composure cracked visibly. Her hand slid from his chest to his collar, fingers curling into fabric. You are reckless, she breathed. And you're afraid. Yes. Of the jump? No. Her forehead touched his. Of wanting. The confession was quiet, raw, earned. His thumb brushed lightly along her jaw. If we do this, he said, we do it together. She nodded, slowly. Yes. Not blind obedience. Not dependency. Choice. And somewhere beneath the engine deck, time waited. Chapter 6. Before the horizon. They did not activate the device that night, or the next. The knowledge of what it could do altered the air between them. Time no longer felt linear. It felt fragile. The ship drifted in silent orbit around a dim, dying star, a place with no traffic, no interference. Travis had chosen it deliberately. If something went wrong, no one would witness it. No one would chase the distortion. The engine deck lights were dimmed low. Meredith sat on the floor near the hull, knees drawn slightly inward, hands resting lightly against the metal. She could feel the distant pulse of the device even through layered bulkheads. It made her uneasy, not because it was dangerous, because it was real. You're restless, she said quietly. Travis stood near the viewport, staring into the star's weak glow. I'm calculating variables. You are avoiding something. He didn't deny it. He turned toward her. I'm going alone. Silence. Not confused silence. Stillness. What do you mean? She asked carefully. I mean, I'll make the jump by myself. Her fingers tightened against the hull. No, it's safer. For whom? For you. Her composure fractured. You do not get to decide that. He stepped closer. If something goes wrong, she interrupted sharply, you will be alone. That's the point. No, she said, rising to her feet. That is cowardice, disguised as protection. The words landed hard. He absorbed them. I won't risk you. You already are. He stopped. She stepped closer until she could feel the heat of him. You would step into an unknown century, she said, voice low but trembling now, where language may be different, where civilization may have collapsed, where you may never return. Yes, for me, yes. And you believe I would remain here? Waiting? He exhaled, slowly. I don't want you exposed to whatever that future holds. She reached for him, not gently this time. Her hands found his shirt, gripping tight. I survived 14 years in captivity, she said fiercely. Do not reduce me to something fragile now. His heart pounded under her touch. That's not what I'm doing. It is. Silence hung between them, heavy and electric. He softened. I don't know what the jump will do to a body, he said quietly. The displacement stress alone could be catastrophic. If it tears anything, if it destabilizes, you would rather it tear you. Yes, the word came too fast, too certain. She froze. Her anger shifted into something else. Fear. You are not expendable, she whispered. He stepped closer until their foreheads nearly touched. I need to know it works before I put you through it. Her breathing grew uneven. I do not want you risking yourself for me. I'm not risking myself, he said softly. I'm choosing you. That broke something open. Her hands slid from his shirt to his shoulders. You have known me weeks, she murmured. Long enough. Her fingers traced upward, along his neck, finding the line of his jaw. You are reckless, she whispered again. Probably you are attached. Yes. Silence. The engine hum filled the gap between heartbeats. Her hand moved slowly, deliberately, until it found his face. She traced the outline of him. Brow, nose, lips, learning him the way she learned the ship. I have not allowed myself to want anything in 14 years, she said softly. His throat tightened. And now, she breathed. You are asking me to accept the possibility of losing you. He closed his eyes at that. I'm coming back. You do not know that. I will. You cannot promise that. I can promise. I won't stop trying. Her fingers tightened against his jaw. Silence stretched. Then, I am angry with you, she said quietly. I know. I am afraid. I know. And I do not want you to go. He inhaled, slowly. I know. Her forehead rested against his chest now. His arms hesitated, only a moment, before wrapping around her. She stiffened briefly, old instinct, then slowly melted into the contact. For the first time, she leaned into him fully, not as a captive, not as someone being saved, as someone choosing closeness. I do not want to be the reason you disappear, she whispered into his shirt. You won't be. You cannot know that. I don't, he admitted, but I'd regret not trying more than I'd regret failing. She went very still at that. Her arms tightened around him. You are infuriating, she murmured. He almost laughed. I get that. A lot. Another long silence. Then she drew back slightly. If you go, she said carefully, you set a limit? He frowned. What? You do not vanish, indefinitely chasing perfection. His brows furrowed. You define a jump interval. He considered. That's risky. So is recklessness. A faint smile touched his lips. All right. She nodded slowly. You gather information. You return. We decide together whether to attempt more together. The word settled between them. He brushed his thumb lightly along her cheek. You're agreeing? I am not approving, she corrected softly. I am choosing to trust you. That hit harder than her anger. He leaned down, slowly, gave her time. She did not pull away. When his lips touched hers, it wasn't desperate. It wasn't rushed. It was quiet, warm, a promise without language. Her fingers tightened against his shirt. For a moment, the universe narrowed to breath and pulse, and shared warmth in a dim engine room, humming with impossible technology. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his again. "You return to me," she whispered. "I will. Not as a memory. Not as a memory." The device pulsed softly behind them. Time waited, and for the first time since she lost her sight, she had something she was afraid to lose. Chapter 7. 100 years forward. They did not sleep before the jump. There was no point pretending. The ship drifted beyond the dying star's gravity well. Engines powered down to minimal output. External systems were darkened. No transponders. No broadcast signatures. Ice. Oh. Nay. Travis stood in the engine bay, hands resting on the console beside the device. Meredith stood a few steps away, not touching him this time, but close enough to feel the shift in his breathing. "How far?" she asked quietly. 1 century, he said. Her jaw tightened faintly. "That is not small." "No," he admitted. "It's far enough for medical advancement. Not so far that language collapses. You assume continuity." "I have to." Silence lingered. She stepped forward until she could feel the warmth of his body. Her hand rose slowly, resting flat against his chest. His heart hammered beneath her palm. "You return immediately if the displacement is unstable," she said. "I will. If the environment is hostile, I won't engage. If you cannot find help within, I won't overstay." She nodded, faintly. "You are promising." "A great deal. I intend to keep it." Her hand slid upward, fingertips brushing his collar. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she pulled him down into a kiss. Not tentative. This time. Not careful. It carried fear and want and something dangerously close to love. When she pulled back, her voice was barely steady. "You come back to me. I will." He stepped into the containment circle. The device hummed louder now. Silver filaments illuminating in intricate patterns along its surface. He entered coordinates manually. Plus 100 years. Forward. Vector. Single displacement. No return lock. It required manual activation from the future point. His pulse raced. Meredith stood just beyond the circle's edge. She did not reach for him again. She would not beg him to stay. That was not who she was. "Travis," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Yes? Do not let the future make you forget who you are." His throat tightened. "I won't." The device activated. The jump. There was no explosion, no flash, no tearing portal. There was compression. The air thickened. Sound stretched, like pulled wire. The engine hum deepened into a low, almost organic resonance. Then, silence. The room inverted. Time did not feel like motion. It felt like pressure folding inward. Light fractured into vertical lines. Space narrowed into a tunnel of collapsing seconds. His body felt suspended, not falling, not flying, just displaced. His heartbeat echoed too loud. Then everything snapped back into place. The future. He hit solid ground, hard. The air was wrong, too clean. He rolled onto his side, coughing. The sky above him was not the dying star's dim glow. It was bright, vibrant, blue. He blinked. He was no longer in deep space. The ship was gone. The containment circle was gone. He was standing in open air. Wind brushed across his face. He scrambled upright. Before him stretched a city, but not one he recognized. It rose vertically in elegant arcs of translucent material that shimmered faintly. Structures curved instead of angled. Light flowed through them like veins. Vehicles moved without visible propulsion, gliding silently between spires. Greenery wove through architecture seamlessly. Trees grew along vertical surfaces. Water cascaded from elevated terraces. No smog, no decay, no visible poverty. The air tasted filtered, but alive. He turned slowly. In the distance, mountains framed the horizon. Above him, aerial transit lanes shimmered faintly in the sky like invisible rivers. He checked his wrist chronometer. Plus 102 years. 2 years beyond his target. He exhaled slowly. It worked. His chest tightened at the realization. It actually worked. He staggered forward a few steps. No one seemed to notice his sudden appearance. People moved along the pathways. Human, mostly, though augmented subtly. Ocular, implants, neural interface, bands along temples. He approached, cautiously. A young woman paused mid-step when she noticed him staring. "Are you disoriented?" she asked, calmly. Her accent was familiar, modern. Continuity held. "Just arrived," he said carefully. She studied him, his clothes outdated, his boots scuffed. "From where?" "Long trip." Her eyes flicked briefly, scanning him. He stiffened. "You're not registered in the grid," she observed. He forced a faint smile. Probably missed a checkpoint. She tilted her head slightly. "Medical center is 2 levels up. If you're experiencing temporal lag symptoms, they can stabilize you." His heart skipped. Temporal lag. So it wasn't unheard of. Medical center? He repeated. She gestured upward. Regenerative ward. Neural restoration. Ocular reconstruction. Spinal reweaving. Standard care. His breath caught. Ocular reconstruction. She nodded casually. Retinal, optic nerve, cortical interface. Even full synthetic overlay if needed. His pulse roared in his ears. He tried to keep his voice steady. For damage long past. She looked almost confused. Of course. Unless there's complete cortical degradation, he swallowed. And if there isn't, then restoration is routine. Routine. The word felt unreal. He forced himself to remain composed. "Thank you." She nodded once and continued on her way. Travis stood frozen. 100 years. And blindness could be reversed as casually as setting a bone. His vision blurred, not from injury, from relief, from awe, from the sudden, overwhelming image of her seeing sunlight again, seeing him. He laughed once under his breath. It worked. He turned toward the medical tower. He needed data, protocols, verification. But beneath the strategic thinking, beneath the caution, there was one clear, unstoppable thought. I'm bringing her here, far behind him, in a century not yet touched by this future. Meredith stood alone in the engine bay, hand resting over her heart, waiting for the sound of him returning. And for the first time since she lost her sight, she dared to imagine light. Chapter 8. Proof of Light. The medical tower rose like living glass. Translucent walls shimmered with faint currents of embedded light. The entrance opened without doors, simply recognizing presence and parting like mist. Travis forced himself to slow his breathing. Act normal. He stepped inside. The air carried a sterile clarity, but not the harsh antiseptic bite of older facilities. It felt advanced, refined. A reception interface materialized in front of him. A soft projection of light forming a humanoid outline. "Welcome," it said, calmly. "Do you require regenerative consultation?" "Yes," he answered, steadying his voice. "Specify condition." He swallowed. Optic nerve destruction. Bilateral. Trauma-based. 14 years prior. There was no hesitation in the system's response. Damage window acceptable. Full restoration probability above 98% if cortical structures remain viable. His heart pounded. "What does restoration involve?" he asked. "A staged neuroregenerative injection series. 3 administrations over 48 hours. Retinal scaffolding reconstruction and optic nerve regrowth guided through directed cellular programming." He blinked. Invasive surgery. Not required. He almost laughed. "You're telling me this can be done with injections?" "Yes." His voice tightened. "And the patient?" "Discomfort minimal. Temporary disorientation during neural reintegration." He closed his eyes for 1 second. Routine. This was routine. He forced himself to continue. "I need procedural documentation." Provided a data crystal formed from the projection surface and dropped into his palm. He stared at it. "And the compounds?" "Prescription required." He hesitated only half a second. "Understood." The projection paused, then shifted. "Temporal displacement origin detected," it said. His blood ran cold. He kept his expression neutral. "Explain." "Your cellular time index does not align with current year. You have experienced forward displacement." He didn't deny it. "Is that illegal?" "Not regulated." "Relief. Will that affect treatment?" "No." He exhaled slowly. "Can I acquire the compounds for later administration?" "Self-administration possible with appropriate training." He leaned forward slightly. I have military medical training. The projection scanned him. Again. Verified. Baseline trauma field certification, sufficient for guided procedure. His pulse surged. The system generated 3 sealed injectors. Sleek. Compact. No larger than a standard med pen, each labeled with adaptive dosage settings. He stared at them. This was it. Not surgery. Not machines. 3 injections. 3. He felt light-headed. Will there be long-term side effects? He asked. None. Statistically significant. And if untreated, permanent blindness persists. He nodded slowly. Thank you. He turned to leave. Traveler, the projection said softly. He paused. Future medicine is common to us. But for you, it may feel miraculous. Do not mistake routine progress for destiny. It was built by ordinary hands. He gave a faint smile. Understood. Verification. He did not immediately return. He spent hours confirming, reviewing medical logs, cross-referencing case studies, watching recorded neural regeneration procedures. The science was clean, elegant, no hidden cost, no neurological degradation. It worked. For trauma, identical to hers. He memorized the injection sites, the timing, intervals, the aftercare. He committed it all to memory, even though the crystal held full documentation, because if something went wrong, he needed to be ready. Finally, standing beneath the open sky of a century not his own, he activated the device. The city shimmered, the air compressed, and time folded. Return. The engine deck reassembled around him. Gravity snapped into place. The dying star glowed faint through the viewport. He staggered forward, breath catching. Meredith was already moving. She crossed the distance instantly, hands finding his shoulders. You are breathing irregularly, she said tightly. I'm fine. You were gone for 3 minutes. He blinked. 3 minutes. To him, it had been nearly a day. I'm okay, he repeated. Her hands moved to his face. Confirming. Mapping. You came back. I told you. I would. Silence. Heavy. Then, did you find anything? Her voice was steady, careful, guarded. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket and placed something into her hands. The data crystal. She frowned slightly. What is this? Proof. She held it carefully. He guided her to the galley table, activated the ship's projection system. The room filled with holographic data, medical diagrams, neural regeneration schematics, case studies, recorded procedures. She stood still as he narrated. Optic nerve regrowth, retinal reconstruction, cortical reintegration, all standardized. She did not speak. He continued. They do it in 48 hours. Silence. 3 injections. Silence. Stretched. Then, you are serious? Yes. Her fingers tightened slightly around the crystal. This is not speculation. No, this is documented. Yes, her breathing became uneven. For damage, 14 years old. Yes. She lifted her face toward him. He could see the tremor in her composure now. You verified multiple sources. You confirmed compatibility? Yes. You are certain? He stepped closer. Yes. Silence swallowed the room. Then she laughed. Not disbelief. Release. A fragile, disoriented sound. You stepped into the future, she said softly, and brought it back. He reached into his jacket again. This time, he placed the 3 sleek injectors into her palm. She froze. What are these? The cure. Her breath caught sharply. They're pre-dosed, he said quietly. Adaptive. I can administer them. We don't need to go there. Not yet. She held them, like they might vanish. You brought this for me. Yes. Her composure cracked. For the first time since he met her, tears formed. Not from blindness, from hope. Her hands trembled. You could have stayed, she whispered. I wasn't going to. You could have chosen a life there. I already chose. Her hand rose, finding his chest again. You are impossible. Maybe. She stepped forward slowly, deliberately. Her forehead touched his. I do not know how to hold this, she whispered. Hope is heavier than despair. He wrapped his arms around her. Then let me carry some of it. Her fingers clutched his shirt tightly. If this fails, it won't. You cannot guarantee that. No, he admitted. But I can guarantee I'll be here. Her breathing steadied, gradually. You would have given me light, she murmured. I still will. Silence. Soft. Charged. Then do it, she whispered. Not out of desperation, out of trust. The future had become tangible, not distant, not theoretical. 3 injections away, and for the first time since she knelt as Lot 47, Meredith Grey stood on the edge of seeing again. Chapter 9. Light. They waited 12 hours before beginning. Not because the procedure required it, because they needed to breathe. Meredith sat on the edge of the bunk, hands folded loosely in her lap. The 3 injectors lay on the metal table beside her, small, unassuming. So ordinary, so impossibly powerful. Travis reviewed the documentation again. Injection 1. Initiate retinal scaffolding regeneration. Injection 2. 24 hours later. Optic nerve reconstruction. Injection 3. Cortical integration and signal stabilization. Minimal pain expected. Temporary neural overload possible. He exhaled slowly. You can still change your mind, he said quietly. She tilted her head slightly toward him. I will not. Silence lingered. I am afraid, she added. Good, he replied softly. So am I? A faint smile touched her lips. Then we proceed honestly. He stepped closer. Lie back. She did. Not submissive, trusting. That difference mattered. He sterilized the injection site at the base of her neck, where neural access was most direct. Her breathing was steady, but her fingers curled slightly into the blanket beneath her. "Ready?" he asked. "Yes." He pressed the injector to her skin. There was a soft hiss. The device discharged. Her body jolted, not violently, but sharply. Her breath caught. "It burns," she whispered. "Neural activation," he said calmly. "That's expected." Her hands gripped the fabric. Her jaw tightened. Then stillness. Her breathing slowed. "What do you feel?" he asked gently. "Pressure," she murmured. "Behind my eyes." His pulse pounded. "That's good. I have not felt anything there in years." Tears slipped from the corners of her clouded eyes. Reflexive, involuntary. He brushed them away gently. They waited. An hour. 2. Subtle changes emerged. Her eyelids fluttered intermittently. Her pupils, faint and pale, began responding microscopically to ambient light. He adjusted the cabin brightness slightly. Her breath hitched. "There is something," she whispered. His throat tightened. "What?" "Not sight." She swallowed. "Presence, light, brushing against nerves long dormant." Day 2. She did not sleep deeply that night. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids. Rapid processing. Relearning. Morning came. He prepared the second injector. Her hands trembled slightly this time. "Still afraid?" he asked. "Yes." "Still want this?" "Yes." He administered the second dose. This time, the reaction was stronger. Her back arched slightly. A strangled sound escaped her throat. Her fingers dug into his forearm. "Travis, I'm here." Her breathing became ragged. "I feel fire." That's the nerve pathways reconnecting. Tears streamed freely now, not from pain, from sensation. "It's overwhelming," she whispered. "Focus on my voice." She turned her face toward him, instinctive, precise even now. "I am here," he repeated. "Stay with me." Minutes passed. Then she gasped. "What?" he demanded, softly. "There's flicker." His heart nearly stopped. "Describe it." "It's like lightning behind closed eyes." He laughed, softly, almost breaking. "That's signal transmission." Her hands trembled. "It's chaotic." "It will stabilize." She reached blindly for him. He took her hand instantly. She clung to it. Hours passed before the flickering subsided into steady pulses. Her pupils reacted more clearly now when light shifted. The milky haze seemed thinner. He dared not hope too loudly. Day 3. The final injection. The one that would integrate everything. She sat upright, this time, facing him, though she could not yet see him. "After this," she whispered, "there is no return. There is only forward." She nodded faintly. He pressed the injector. The hiss felt louder this time. She inhaled sharply. Her eyes flew open, wide. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, her pupils contracted violently. She cried out, not in pain, in shock. The cabin lights were too bright. He dimmed them instantly. Her breathing turned frantic. Too much, she gasped. It's okay. Slow. She blinked rapidly. Shapes began forming. Blurs. Color gradients. Her hands flew to his face, but stopped midair. She stared. Her pupils struggled to focus. Travis. She breathed. He froze. Yes? Her eyes, no longer pale silver, but shifting, clearing, locked vaguely in his direction. You're there. His vision blurred. Yes. She blinked again. Shapes sharpened slightly. The outline of him became distinguishable. Broad shoulders, dark hair, light from the viewport, catching along his jaw. Her breath hitched. I see movement. He stepped slightly to the left. Her eyes tracked him. Imperfect, shaky, but tracking. A sob tore from her throat. Don't move, she whispered. He stopped. Her vision sharpened incrementally. The neural integration was stabilizing in real time. Color flooded in next, muted at first, then richer. The dull amber of the cabin lights, the soft blue glow of the console, and then him, blurry, but him. She stared. Her lips parted. You're real. He laughed through tears he hadn't realized were falling. I hope so. Her eyes focused again, stronger now. The haze clearing, like morning fog, lifting. She reached forward. This time, not to search, but to confirm. Her fingers brushed his cheek. She looked at where she touched. The connection between sight and sensation aligning. You look, she whispered. He held his breath. She swallowed. Exactly. Like I imagined. That broke him. He pulled her into him carefully, giving her time to adjust. She didn't resist. She buried her face against his chest, but then pulled back slightly, because she could look at him. Really look. Her eyes were no longer clouded. They were a clear, luminous blue, bright, alive. He had never seen them before. Not truly. They were wrong. She whispered faintly. Everyone who said this was permanent. He rested his forehead against hers. You were never meant to stay in the dark. She pulled back slightly, looking at his face again, studying every detail, committing it to memory. You're beautiful, she said softly. He blinked. That wasn't the plan. It is now. They both laughed. Fragile, relieved. The galaxy outside remained unchanged, cold, endless. But inside that small ship, something impossible had just happened. Not through magic, through time, through love, through risk. She turned toward the viewport, slowly. Light from the distant star poured in. Her breath caught. That's it, she whispered. Sunlight He stepped beside her. Yes, she stared at it. At the first light she had seen in 14 years, and for the first time, Meredith Grey did not listen for the future. She saw it. Chapter 10. After the light. The first sunrise she saw lasted less than 3 minutes. They had positioned the ship along the edge of the dying star's corona, just enough for its pale light to crest the hull. Meredith stood at the viewport barefoot, fingers resting lightly against the glass. The star was not bright, not vibrant, but to her, it was overwhelming. She blinked slowly, adjusting to depth, to distance, to the vastness of space, stretching infinitely beyond the hull. "I had forgotten how far everything is," she whispered. Travis stood just behind her, not touching, just watching her watch the universe. Her eyes were clear now, luminous blue, sharp and alive. They caught the faint glow of starlight and held it like reflection off water. "You don't look like someone seeing for the first time," he said softly. She smiled, faintly. "I have been seeing in my mind for years. Now reality is catching up." She turned to him. Really turned. Not toward his voice. Toward him. She studied his face slowly, deliberately. The faint scar near his eyebrow. The exhaustion he carried like a second skin. The quiet strength in his posture. "You were close," she said. "To what?" "To not coming back." He held her gaze. "I was never not coming back." Her expression softened. "You don't know that." "No," he admitted. "But I knew where I wanted to return." She stepped closer. This time, when she touched his face, it was guided by sight. Her thumb traced the line of his jaw. "You are different than I imagined," she murmured. He raised a brow. "Better or worse?" She smiled. Full this time. "Both." He laughed. She leaned into him, not out of fear, not out of uncertainty, but because she wanted to. And when he kissed her again, there was no hesitation left in it. It wasn't desperation. It was promise, a decision. They remained near the dying star for several days. Her vision stabilized completely. No flicker, no blur. She walked the ship, as though rediscovering it. Color fascinated her. The deep gray of the hull panels, the muted blue glow of control displays, even the warm amber of galley lights felt miraculous. But the quiet peace did not last. One evening, as they sat side by side in the cockpit, she spoke. "It is time." He didn't need clarification. "You're home." She nodded. "They believe me dead?" "Yes." "They believe the line extinguished?" "Yes." She looked out at the starfield. No longer darkness to her. "I will not hide." His jaw tightened slightly. "You want to retake it." "It is not about power," she said calmly. "It is about correction." He turned toward her. "And if they resist, they will. And you're ready for that?" She met his eyes evenly. "I was trained for it. Before I was betrayed." There it was again, that glimpse of the person she had been before captivity. Not fragile, not rescued, Sovereign. He exhaled, slowly. Then we plan. A faint smile touched her lips. Together, the journey home. They charted a long arc toward the Solaran reach. She stood at the navigation console often now, studying star maps she had memorized in childhood. Constellations she had once known by heart now shimmered before her in real light. Her posture changed as they traveled. Straighter, not just physically, internally. The closer they drew to her home sector, the more something awakened in her. Travis saw it. He loved it. And it frightened him, because reclaiming a throne meant war. The sickness. It began subtly. Fatigue. She dismissed it at first. It is only adjustment, she said, when he noticed her sitting more often. But the fatigue deepened. By the third day, she moved slower. By the fifth, she skipped meals. You're pale, he said, gently. She frowned. I feel unsteady. Pain. No. Dizziness. Yes. He guided her to sit. Her hand drifted unconsciously to her abdomen. A small gesture. He noticed. How long? He asked. Quietly. She hesitated. Several days. He stood immediately. I'm running scans. She rolled her eyes faintly. You are overreacting. I hope so. The scan. The ship's medical unit was compact but efficient. He guided her onto the diagnostic platform. She watched him now, eyes sharp, curious. There was something intimate about this. Him standing between her knees, focused, professional, but protective. He activated the scanner. Internal imaging populated the screen. He frowned, adjusted, resolution, zoomed in. His breath stopped. For several seconds, he didn't speak. Meredith shifted slightly. What is it? He stared at the display. 2 distinct rhythmic pulses. 2. Impossible. Travis, she said more firmly. What is wrong? He swallowed. Nothing's wrong. Silence. Then why are you pale? He exhaled slowly. You're not sick. She blinked. Then what? He turned the screen toward her. Her eyes focused. The image clarified. 2 small forms. Tiny. Undeniable. 2 heartbeats. Her breath left her in a stunned whisper. No. He laughed softly, disbelieving, overwhelmed. Yes. She stared at the screen. They said it was impossible, she whispered. They were wrong about a lot of things. Her hand trembled as it moved toward the display. 2, she breathed. 2. She looked at him slowly. T? Twins? He nodded. Twin daughters. Silence swallowed the room. Then, how? She whispered. Different species. Different genetic structures. Incompatible physiology. Every medical doctrine said it could not happen. He thought of the temporal displacement, the regenerative therapy, the altered neural pathways. Maybe the future medicine had done more than restore sight. Or maybe some boundaries were never as rigid as believed. She placed her hand against her abdomen. Tears welled again. Not fragile tears. Overwhelmed tears. I was told I would never have heirs, she said quietly. His chest tightened. You do. She looked at him, eyes luminous, alive. This is not coincidence. No, he agreed softly. It's a miracle. She stepped off the platform, slowly. Her hand found his. She pressed it against her abdomen. He felt nothing yet, but he imagined it. 2 heartbeats, 2 futures. You risked time for my sight, she whispered. And now, he smiled, faintly. Now, we risk the galaxy. She laughed, softly through tears. Twin daughters. The Solaran line, not only alive, but multiplied. And as the ship continued its silent journey toward a throne stolen by betrayal, the future was no longer theoretical. It was growing. Chapter 11. A different crown. They did not speak for a long time after the scan. Meredith sat in the cockpit, hands folded over her abdomen, staring at the stars. 2 heartbeats. 2 daughters. The Solaran line had been preserved through war, betrayal, captivity, and now multiplied. Travis stood behind her, watching her reflection in the viewport. He knew what she was thinking. The throne, the reach, the bloodline, responsibility. Finally, she spoke. If I return openly, she said quietly, there will be conflict. Yes, they will not surrender power peacefully. No, and war, she whispered, is not a safe place for children. The word lingered in the air. Children, not heirs, not successors. Children. He stepped forward, slowly. What do you want? He asked. Not what is your duty, not what is expected. What do you want? She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were steady. I want them safe. His shoulders relaxed, just slightly. And the throne? She turned toward him. For a moment, he saw the princess, the ruler she had been trained to become. Then he saw something else. A mother. I do not need a crown to exist, she said softly. The simplicity of it stunned him. He stepped closer. Then we don't pursue it. She studied him carefully. You would give that up for me? I never wanted it, he admitted. I wanted you alive. Silence. She reached for his hand. Our daughters deserve a childhood without strategy, she said quietly. Then that's what they'll get. She exhaled, not defeated, relieved. We will return, she said, but not as challengers. As what? She smiled faintly. As mechanics. He blinked. She laughed softly at his expression. My people revere engineers. Ships are sacred in the Reach. A repair yard in the outer district would attract no suspicion. You want to open a shop? Yes. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he grinned. I can fix anything with an engine. I know. And you. I was trained in more than politics. There was something mischievous in her tone now. He liked that. All right, he said. We'll build something small. She squeezed his hand. Something honest. A rival the Solaran Reach shimmered into view weeks later. Its star burned bright and full. Nothing like the dying light they had left behind. Planets orbited in orderly arcs. Trade lanes glowed faintly. Civilization, her home. She stood at the viewport, silent. Do you regret it? He asked, quietly. She watched the world spin, slowly beneath them. No, not even a little. She smiled, faintly. I once believed. Power defined legacy. She rested her hand over her abdomen. Now I know better. He exhaled. Relief settled into him in a way he hadn't allowed before. They docked in the outer ring of the capital city, not in the central ports, not where nobility would recognize her. Just another ship seeking maintenance contracts. She wore simple clothes, hair braided back. No insignia, no mark of royalty. No one looked twice at them. The shop, it wasn't glamorous. A converted hangar on the industrial edge of the city. The walls were worn, the equipment outdated. But it was theirs. They painted the exterior themselves. Gray hull, simple lettering. Kelsey & Gray Shipworks, the name, made her pause the first time she saw it. She looked at him. He shrugged lightly. You see everything now, he said. Figured you should see your name on something. Her throat tightened. They worked side by side. He repaired propulsion cores. She recalibrated navigation systems and structural alignments with precision that surprised every client. Word spread quietly. They were good, reliable, honest. At night, they returned to their small apartment above the shop. She would sit near the window, watching the city lights flicker, still marveling at sight. He would sit beside her, one hand resting instinctively over her growing abdomen. Weeks passed. Her body changed slowly. The fatigue softened into steady strength. Sometimes she would pause mid-task and smile faintly. What? He'd ask. They're moving, she would say. He would freeze every time, as if movement were sacred. The quiet one evening, as they closed the hangar doors, she leaned against him. You are content, she observed. He looked around at the grease-stained floor and dim overhead lights. Yeah, she smiled softly. So, am I? He turned toward her. No regrets? She shook her head gently. If my daughters inherit anything from me, she said quietly, let it be choice, not vengeance, not war. Choice. He kissed her temple. Above them, the capital city shimmered in layered tiers of light. Somewhere at its center, the throne still existed, still occupied, still powerful. But for now, in a small hangar on the edge of it all, a former soldier and a once-lost princess built something far more dangerous than a kingdom. A family. Chapter 12. Echoes of a name for 6 weeks. Nothing happened. And those 6 weeks became sacred. The quiet weeks, the repair shop gained steady work. Freighters, personal transports, mining craft from the outer rings. Meredith worked at the calibration console with natural authority. Her hands moved confidently over diagnostics. Her restored sight sharpened her instincts rather than replacing them. Customers noticed her, not because she was regal, because she was precise and calm. Travis noticed something else. She smiled more, not broadly, but often, especially when she felt the twins shift. They had begun to move regularly now, one stronger than the other. "She's going to be stubborn," Meredith murmured once, pressing a hand lightly to her side. "How can you tell?" "She kicks when you argue." He laughed. They painted the interior walls of the shop a soft gray-blue. "She insisted on color. I waited 14 years to see it," she said. "I intend to use it." They slept deeply at night. Sometimes she would wake and simply look at him, studying the face she had once known only through touch. Peace had weight, and they were carrying it carefully. Recognition it began with a stare. An older mechanic from the Central District came in for thruster recalibration. He studied Meredith longer than necessary. Not inappropriate, just searching. "You look familiar," he said cautiously. She didn't stiffen, didn't deny. "Many people do," she replied evenly. He left without pressing further. But 2 days later, a newsfeed flickered briefly across the shop's public monitor. An archival image faded. A younger version of her, before blindness, before betrayal. The caption read, "Unconfirmed reports of Solaran survivor." The screen glitched and returned to local traffic updates. Travis turned slowly toward her. She was very still. "They found something," he said quietly. She nodded once. "Yes. Do you want to leave?" "No." Her voice was calm. "They cannot take what I do not offer." The palace reacts in the Central Capital Palace. The rumor spread faster. The emperor did not react publicly, but privately. Tension thickened the air. Her second sister, the one who orchestrated her downfall, did not sleep that night. She was blinded, the sister insisted. Sold. Verified. Bodies are often misidentified, one advisor replied carefully. The sister's composure fractured. She cannot be alive, but the resemblance in the footage was undeniable. And more unsettling, the report claimed her sight restored. Impossible, unless... Her hands trembled slightly. If Meredith lived, if she was whole, the line of succession would reorder itself overnight. The envoy, the imperial envoy, arrived at the shop in polished ceremonial armor. Too formal for a repair district. The entire hangar fell silent. Meredith wiped her hands on a cloth and stepped forward. She wore oil-stained work clothes. No insignia. No jewelry. The envoy bowed slightly. Princess Meredith of the Solaran Reach. The name hung in the air. Customers froze. Travis stepped subtly closer to her. She did not react to the title. I no longer answer to that, she said evenly. The Emperor requests your presence at the palace. Requests, she asked, faintly. Yes, a pause. And if I decline? The envoy hesitated. Your place in succession would be restored immediately. Her eyes remained steady. I do not want it. The envoy blinked. Forgive me. I have no interest in the crown, nor in my family. Murmurs rippled through the hangar. The envoy lowered his voice. You were wronged. Yes. The emperor expresses regret. Regret, she repeated quietly, is not intervention. The envoy hesitated. You are first born. And yet, she said calmly, when I was betrayed, no one stopped it. The words were not shouted. They were surgical. They all knew. She continued, and they did nothing. The envoy could not deny it. You would refuse restoration? I renounce succession. The room fell silent. You are removing yourself voluntarily, the envoy asked. Yes, entirely. Yes, even knowing your sister would retain position. A flicker passed across her eyes. Then, I do not care. It was not bitterness. It was truth. The envoy bowed stiffly. Your decision will be conveyed. He left. The hangar slowly resumed sound. Travis looked at her. You okay? She exhaled slowly. Yes, and she meant it. The sisters' fear at the palace. The news struck like thunder. She renounced. The second sister demanded. Yes, Highness. The sister sagged into her chair. Relief flooded her, but not fully. If Meredith refused the throne, then the threat was gone. But the fact that she lived, that she was healed, that she carried strength and public sympathy, it terrified her. Still, she retained position. For now, the fear did not leave her. It simply shifted into paranoia. Leah, the fourth sister, had remained quiet throughout the years. Leah, younger, observant, the only one who had cried when Meredith was taken, the only one who had whispered apologies in secret corridors. When the envoy returned with Meredith's refusal, Leah felt something break inside her. She left that night without announcement, without escort. She found the repair district alone. When she stepped into the hangar, Meredith looked up. Recognition was immediate. Leah, Meredith said softly. Leah's composure shattered. I am so sorry, she whispered. Years of distance collapsed. Meredith did not hesitate. She crossed the space and embraced her. Travis stepped back quietly. I tried, Leah said through tears. I was too young. I had no power. I know, Meredith said gently. You should have taken the throne. I chose differently. Leah pulled back, studying her sister's face. You're whole. Yes. Leah's eyes flickered to Meredith's abdomen. You're... Yes. Leah smiled through tears. You deserve this. Consequences. The palace learned of Leah's visit within hours. By morning, an imperial decree was issued. Princess Leah Solaran was stripped of title and banished from palace grounds. No appeal, no hearing, no return. She stood outside the gates, alone. and did not look back. When she arrived at the repair shop again, carrying nothing but a small case of personal belongings, Meredith understood without explanation. "They disowned you," Meredith said quietly. "Yes. Do you regret coming?" Leah shook her head. "No." Meredith stepped forward and took her hand. "Then, you are home." Behind them, Travis watched carefully. Peace had lasted weeks. Now the ripples had begun. Meredith had walked away from power. But power did not always walk away from her. And somewhere in the palace, fear was growing. Chapter 13. What we choose to keep. Leah did not know how to live outside marble walls. The first week in the repair shop, she stood too straight, spoke too formally, apologized for touching tools. Meredith noticed immediately. "You do not have to bow here," she told her gently. "It is habit," Leah admitted. "Then break it." Leah tried. She cut her hair shorter, simpler, tied it back when she worked the parts counter, learned how to log repair orders, burned her hand once on an overheated thruster coil, and swore loudly enough that Travis nearly dropped a wrench. She laughed after. It was the first time Meredith had heard that sound from her in years. At night, they ate together at the small table above the shop. No servants, no formal courses, just simple meals. Leah began to relax. She stopped sleeping with her door locked. She began teasing Travis lightly. "You are surprisingly patient," she told him once, while he explained engine timing adjustments. "I've had practice," he replied, glancing toward Meredith. Leah noticed. She noticed everything. The growth. Months passed. Meredith's pregnancy showed clearly now. The twins moved strongly, often at the same time. Leah would sit beside her on the couch, hand resting gently against Meredith's abdomen, eyes wide with wonder. "I cannot believe this," she whispered once. "Neither can I," Meredith replied softly. Travis watched them both from the kitchen doorway. The throne had been replaced with something quieter, something far more enduring. The suggestion. It was late evening. Leah had fallen asleep on the couch, with a half-read technical manual resting against her chest. Meredith stood by the window, looking out at the layered lights of the Capitol. Travis approached her quietly. "You ever think about names?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Constantly. Any favorites?" She rested a hand over her abdomen. "There are traditions," she said softly. "Family names. Lineage markers." He leaned against the wall beside her. "You planning to follow those?" She hesitated. "I do not know." He studied her profile. "Can I suggest something?" She turned to him. "Of course." He took a breath. "What if we name one of them Leah?" She blinked. He continued, carefully. "And the other?" "After her middle name." Meredith's brows knit slightly. "Alita," she whispered. He nodded. Leah and Alita. Silence filled the room. Not empty. Full. Meredith stared at him, as if she were seeing him for the first time all over again. "You want to name them after her," she said quietly. "Yes." "And why?" "Because she chose you," he replied simply. "When she didn't have to." Her throat tightened. She lost everything. She chose family instead of power, he said. That's the kind of legacy I want them to carry. Tears welled in her eyes, not fragile tears, overwhelmed ones. You would honor her like that, she whispered. Yes. He stepped closer, and I think she should be their godmother. That broke her composure entirely. She covered her mouth with her hand. For several seconds, she couldn't speak. Travis, she breathed. He moved closer, resting his hands gently at her waist. It feels right, she nodded, slowly. It does. Her voice trembled. It feels beyond right. A tear slipped down her cheek. In the palace, she whispered, names were political. He brushed the tear away. These won't be. She let out a soft, shaking breath. Leah and Alita. She tested the names aloud. They felt warm, alive. She smiled through tears. You are a remarkable man, she said softly. No, he replied gently. Just stubborn. She laughed quietly, then leaned into him, pressing her forehead to his chest. Happiness frightens me sometimes, she admitted. He wrapped his arms around her carefully. I know, but this, she whispered, this feels right. He kissed the top of her head. Then we'll tell her in the morning. The reveal the next morning smelled like coffee and warm bread. Leah sat at the table flipping through shipping invoices, hair tied back loosely. Meredith exchanged a glance with Travis. He nodded slightly. Leah, Meredith said gently. She looked up. Yes, there is something we would like to ask you. Leah's expression shifted immediately to concern. What is wrong? Nothing, Travis said, smiling faintly. Nothing is wrong. Meredith reached for her sister's hand. Leah stilled. We have chosen names, Meredith said softly. Leah smiled. That is wonderful. Meredith swallowed. One of them will be named Leah. Silence. The word landed. Leah stared at her. What? The other, Travis continued quietly, will be named Alita. Her lips parted. That is my middle name, Meredith finished. Silence. Absolute. Leah blinked once, twice. You are joking, she whispered. No, Meredith said gently. And we would like you, Travis added, to be their godmother. For a full 5 seconds, Leah did not move. Then, her composure shattered. Tears spilled instantly. She covered her mouth with both hands. No, she whispered. Meredith squeezed her hand. Yes, Leah shook her head, crying openly now. You cannot. I do not deserve. You do, Meredith said firmly. You chose me, Meredith continued, when you did not have to. Leah began sobbing. Not quiet tears, full, shaking, uncontrollable emotion. She stood abruptly and wrapped her arms around Meredith, careful of her abdomen. I am not worthy of this, she cried. Yes, you are, Travis said gently. Leah turned toward him, tears streaming down her face. You would give them my name, she whispered. We would, he said. Her knees nearly gave out. She collapsed into a chair, laughing and crying at the same time. "This is too much," she whispered. "It is not enough," Meredith replied softly. Leah reached across the table, taking both their hands. "I will protect them," she said fiercely through tears. "With my life." Meredith smiled. "I know." Outside, the capital moved on, as it always had. Power shifted in marble halls. Fear grew in gilded chambers. But in a small apartment above a repair shop, 3 adults sat at a kitchen table, crying over something infinitely more powerful than a crown: love, and the names of 2 girls who would never know the darkness their mother survived. Chapter 14. Foundations. The final trimester passed in quiet abundance. Meredith moved slower now, but not weaker. The twins carried low and strong, their movements visible beneath the fabric of her shirts when they shifted at the same time. Leah would gasp every time. "They coordinate," she whispered, once in awe. "They argue already," Meredith replied dryly. Travis pretended not to look terrified every time they both kicked, simultaneously. The shop, Gro's business, flourished. Word spread quickly that Kelsey and Gray Shipworks didn't just repair engines, they improved them. Meredith had a mind for optimization that bordered on obsessive. Leah discovered she could visualize complex systems in layered dimensions without losing structural clarity. Travis began teaching them deliberately. At first, it was casual. "Come look at this stabilizer flaw," he'd call from beneath a transport hull. They'd kneel beside him. "See how the field imbalance creates micro-oscillation?" Leah would squint thoughtfully. Meredith would tilt her head, eyes narrowing in focus. "You could solve that with redistribution," Meredith said once. "Redistribution wastes energy," Leah countered. Travis blinked. "Okay," he said slowly. "Explain." Within minutes, they were sketching on scrap, plating with grease pencils. By the end of the week, they had redesigned a cooling loop that reduced energy bleed by 14%. By the end of the month, they were arguing over planetary grid inefficiencies. The energy problem the Solaran Reach had always suffered from resource strain. Its star burned bright, but planetary conversion systems were outdated. Mining was expensive. Reactor arrays were unstable. Energy was rationed in outer districts. It had always been manageable. Leah was the one who said it first. "What if the problem isn't generation?" she mused over dinner one night. "But loss?" Meredith's eyes lit up. "Transmission. Decay." Travis leaned back slowly. "Keep going." They didn't sleep that night. Schematics covered the walls of the workshop by morning. They weren't designing a bigger reactor. They were redesigning containment. A closed-loop quantum lattice generator, self-sustaining once initiated. Minimal, external fuel requirement. No long-range transmission decay, because output stabilized locally before dispersal. Travis stared at their final projection in stunned silence. "This shouldn't work," he said. "It does," Meredith replied calmly. Leah grinned. "It solves 90% of grid loss." 87, Meredith corrected. Details. Travis ran simulations. Then again. Then with external modeling. Overlays. The numbers held. "This is revolutionary," he whispered. They built a prototype in the back of the shop. It powered the entire district without fluctuation. No spikes, no collapse. Just steady, clean output. Word spread faster this time. Within weeks, central engineers were arriving. Within months, the Capital Council offered a contract. Within a year, the Solaran energy crisis was over. Wealth, the royalties, were astronomical. Every installation across the reach paid licensing fees. Every upgraded grid reported efficiency gains beyond expectation. Their accounts filled rapidly. More money than any of them had ever imagined touching. Leah stared at the figures in disbelief. We could buy half the capital. Travis shrugged lightly. We won't. Meredith smiled. We built this for stability, not status. They moved nothing, bought nothing extravagant. The shop remained small, their apartment unchanged. Leah insisted on replacing only the broken window latch. That one irritated me, she said defensively. The capital speculated endlessly. The former princess, who renounced the throne, now possessed wealth rivaling the crown, and did nothing with it. That unsettled people more than ambition would have. The sisters Travis began structured engineering sessions in the evenings. He taught fundamentals, structural tolerances, thermal drift, field stabilization. Leah absorbed it instantly. Meredith expanded it further. They argued like mathematicians, laughed like conspirators. Sometimes Travis would just lean back and watch them, the woman he loved and the sister who chose her, sketching designs with grease-smudged hands, eyes bright with shared brilliance. "You're dangerous," he told them once. Meredith raised a brow. "How so?" "You solve problems without needing permission." Leah grinned. "That's the best kind of dangerous." The waiting, as the weeks narrowed toward birth. The atmosphere softened again. The workshop ran smoothly without Meredith lifting heavy components. Leah took over client negotiations. Travis became hyper-aware of every sound Meredith made. "I am not fragile," she reminded him daily. "I know," he replied daily. But at night, when she slept with one hand over her abdomen, he lay awake sometimes, listening to her breathing, feeling the future shift. One evening, Meredith stood at the window again. The Capitol lights shimmered below. The grid they helped stabilize glowed brighter now, steadier. "It's strange," she murmured. "What is?" Travis asked. "I once thought power came from crowns." She rested her hand on her stomach. "Now it comes from creation." He stepped behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her. "You're about to create something even bigger than a generator." She smiled softly. "Yes." Leah entered quietly behind them. "You realize," she said thoughtfully, "that our daughters are inheriting a repaired planet." Meredith glanced at her sister. "And a family that chose each other." Leah smiled. "I think that matters more." The final weeks passed in peace. No envoys, no palace decrees, no whispers, just steady work. Shared meals, shared laughter, and the quiet hum of a planet no longer straining under its own weight. Above the city, the Solaran star burned bright. Below it, in a small apartment over a repair shop, a former princess, a banished sister, and a soldier-turned-engineer waited for two girls who would inherit not a throne, but a foundation. Chapter 15. Two Sons. The twins did not wait for ceremony. They came on a night heavy with rain. The capital's upper tiers shimmered beneath a storm front, lightning tracing pale veins across the sky. Down in the repair district, the shop was closed early, tools left scattered on workbenches. Meredith had insisted she was fine. She was not fine. The first contraction stole her breath mid-sentence. Leah froze. Travis dropped the diagnostic tablet in his hand. "Okay," he said calmly, already moving. "Okay. This is fine. It does not feel fine," Meredith muttered through clenched teeth. They had prepared. Medical supplies were ready. Monitoring systems calibrated. A private physician from the district stood by discreetly, sworn to silence and well compensated. But preparation does not erase intensity. Labor lasted hours. Meredith did not scream. She did not break. She gripped Travis's hand hard enough to bruise bone and breathed through pain with focused discipline that stunned the physician. Leah stayed near her head, whispering steady encouragement, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "You are stronger than this," Leah murmured. Meredith managed a breathless smile. "I know." The first cry shattered the room, just before dawn. Sharp, indignant, alive. Travis felt something inside him split open. The physician lifted the tiny, furious creature gently. "A daughter," she confirmed softly. Meredith reached for her instantly. The second came minutes later, quieter, but no less determined. Another daughter. 2 heartbeats, now outside her body. 2 lives filling the room with sound. They placed the first child in Meredith's left arm, the second in her right. For a long moment, no one spoke. Leah stood frozen, tears streaming silently. Travis sank into the chair beside the bed, unable to stop smiling like a man undone. "They're perfect," he whispered. Meredith looked down at them, dark hair already visible in soft wisps, small fists clenched tight, eyes closed, breathing steady. "Yes," she whispered. "They are." Names, they named them that same day. The stronger, louder one. The one who had kicked hardest through pregnancy. They named Leah. The quieter twin. Observant even in sleep. They named Alita. Leah wept openly when Meredith handed her the first child. "I will not fail them," she said fiercely. "You won't," Meredith replied softly. Travis stood beside them, hands trembling slightly as he traced one tiny fingertip. He had faced pirates, temporal displacement, royal envoys. Nothing had prepared him for how small his daughters were, or how fiercely he already loved them. The first months, life contracted into rhythm, feeding, cycles, late night rocking, soft cries echoing through the apartment above the shop. Travis learned to repair engines one-handed. Meredith learned to sleep in fragments. Leah proved astonishing with infants, calm, instinctive, tireless. The twins grew quickly. Leah, the elder by minutes, had her mother's intensity. Even as an infant, her eyes tracked movement with sharp focus. Alita observed quietly, watching everything, rarely fussing without reason. By 3 months, they smiled responsively. By 5, they laughed. The sound transformed the apartment. It softened walls, brightened mornings. Travis would sit cross-legged on the floor. Both daughters sprawled against him, explaining engine theory in mock seriousness. You see, he would tell them gravely, compression efficiency is everything. They would respond by grabbing his hair. Meredith watched from the couch, heart full. Peace was no longer theoretical. It was tactile, warm, alive. A new kind of power. The generator project continued expanding across the reach. Energy stabilized. Outer districts flourished. Infrastructure improved. And quietly, people began speaking the name Gray with respect again, not as royalty, as innovators, as benefactors. Meredith ignored it. She spent her mornings walking with the twins in a sling against her chest, sunlight warming their small faces. She spent evenings with Travis and Leah, laughing over simple meals. If power circled back toward her, she did not reach for it. The palace hears, but the palace always listened. A data report passed through secure channels, not widely broadcast, not public, but undeniable. Former Princess Meredith Grey had given birth. Twin daughters, genetically confirmed. Legitimate heirs of the Solaran line. The report landed on the second sister's private console just after midnight. She read it once, then again. Her hands went cold. Twins, she whispered. Heirs, 2 of them. Public sympathy would shift instantly if news spread widely. The Solaran bloodline no longer ended with Meredith. It multiplied. And though Meredith had renounced the throne, her daughters had not. Fear crept back in, like rot beneath marble floors. The sister paced her chamber slowly. She could change her mind, she muttered. She could be persuaded, or worse. Others could rally behind the children. In politics, infants were symbols. Symbols were dangerous. Her gaze hardened. Not again, she whispered. She activated a secure channel. A name appeared. An old ally. One who specialized in problems that needed permanent solutions. We have unfinished business, she said quietly into the transmission. Closing back in the repair district, rain tapped gently against the apartment windows. Meredith sat in the rocking chair, Leah asleep against her shoulder, Alita resting in Travis's arms nearby. The lights were dim. The world felt safe. Travis looked up at her softly. We did good, he whispered. She smiled down at their daughters. Yes, she said. Outside, the capital glowed under stable power, a planet no longer struggling. Inside, 2 tiny girls slept, unaware that their existence had just reignited a quiet war. And somewhere in the palace, plans were being drawn, not against a princess, not against a throne, but against 2 small perfect sons who had just entered the world.